Hi everybody, this is the Acoustic Guitar Show Players Edition again, and another time we have another great guest, one of the most important acoustic guitar players, fingerstyle acoustic guitar players in the last decades, can I say so, introduced by this. So please welcome Mr. Peter Finger.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, and in person it's been very long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. So I hope you're fine in these very weird times. First of all,
I'm very good, thank you. I enjoyed I must say, the calm life. A lot of silence and a lot of free time and a lot of opportunities to do other things than playing concerts. But now I'm looking forward to the fall and the winter. I think for me the season will start again in October, and well, I will enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, I imagine so. Did you write a lot of new music?
Actually not. I played a lot of guitar, but I didn't write new music. I have another passion. It's building guitars, and I'm a luthier for a couple of years now, and I got many orders. This is the other side of the pandemic, that people play more guitar, and so I got so many orders, more orders than I can fill, so.
Great. I saw you playing with a couple of your guitars in the very beginning. When we met in Germany, you had a couple of your creatures.
Yeah, but at that time I didn't sell guitars.
Yeah.
I built guitars. I used to build guitars only for myself. But what do I do with so many guitars?
You sell them.
Yeah, now I sell them, and I enjoy very much the building process.
Oh, great. You're a man of so many resources. You've done so much. And this brings us to the very point of our meeting. I would like to start with a question that I often ask. How is that how do you become Peter Finger in a world without Peter Finger? I mean, you are so unique. What was the beginning for you? What was acoustic guitar for you? And what did you do?
Well, acoustic guitar for me at the beginning was not so important because I was a violin player. Oh. And of course, when you are 14 or 15, the violin on the beach is not very sexy.
Yes.
So I picked up the guitar, and I had fun accompanying songs, and others I didn't sing, but I could easily find the chords to accompany others. So it was the perfect instrument for the beach or for a fireplace. And later I discovered for myself, I discovered folk and blues. We had a big folk scene in the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s. We had a big festival here in my hometown. And then I enjoyed this folk scene because it was not only the music, it was also a way of living. People with the same sense of humor, people with the same questions, and with the same political opinions, and it's been like a family, and I felt very welcome, and I feel very good within this family, and so I and then of course since I was a musician already on the violin and a little bit on the guitar, I discovered my love for this music, and and at the same time the love for the guitar. And then I discovered people from the blues scene, like all the great blues players, and through this guy who Stefan Grossman, the American guitarist. And well, in that time I practiced a lot my guitar, and I won a competition as new folk music and instrumental folk music, and I won a first prize with a little recording. It's been an EP, and but that was just a local pressing, and I think they made like 200 or 300 copies. And it was the studio recording was the first prize, and I used this studio recording to send a demo to Stefan Grossman. And at that time, Stefan just started his Kicking Mule Records label.
Yeah, sure.
And I was one of the first artists on the label. And this was in 1974. I was like 19 years old, and I can say he discovered me. And
great.
But I had not a solo repertoire for a whole album. So I traveled down to Rome, where he lived at that time, and I traveled together with a good friend of mine. We had a guitar duo, and we recorded this album, the first album for Kicking Mule. And Stefan saw me playing bottleneck guitar, and he this recording was in February, and he said, "Oh, come back in June, and we record another CD with just bottleneck music." Well, and to have a second album out on an American label, I would have done anything, you know. So I composed like 20 or 25 pieces for bottleneck guitar, and we recorded that in summer in Rome again. I must say, bottleneck guitar, slide guitar, can be beautiful if you know what you do and if you can handle it. For me, I was just a decent player using a bottleneck for the first time, and well, if you play like 20 bottleneck pieces, one tends to sound like the other, and
sure.
So for me, the album was, well, I did it because it was a great opportunity to have a second album out, and but it was musically, it was not really what my goal, I would say.
It was a start.
It was a start, and it turned out it was a top seller for Kicking Mule Records, because the album was called Bottleneck Guitar Solos, and at that time it was the first pure bottleneck album that were out on the market. There were a lot of people playing bottleneck, like Leo Kottke and many others, but nobody had a pure instrumental bottleneck album. So this was what sold, not the title of the album sold, not my playing or not my name.
Well,
because it was kind of a theme, the whole thing. It was a project, and this is the first thing I learned from Stefan Grossman in business. If you put out an album, you have you can sell either a name or a subject, like a theme or a project. Yeah. If you call an album like blues guitar, you can sell the project, no matter who's playing, you know. And this was like opening my eyes, and I I still learn from it today. You know, from a few business tips that I got from Stefan Grossman.
Great. As you started your own acoustic
Yeah.
records, and you've done acoustic music, and
Yes,
you've done
yes,
a lot.
yes. Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning, and not just your beginning, of course, which is so interesting because you developed a very unique style, and you will tell us where it comes from. What was acoustic guitar at the time for you? I mean, the folk scene was clearly something because it was opposed to the rock scene, which the electric rock scene, which was huge at the time, but the acoustic was huge too. But that was one side. When did you realize that the acoustic guitar was an instrument, a polyphonic instrument, where you could play like an orchestra by yourself? Which were the first examples that brought you to what you are today?
Well, I saw guitarists at this huge festival, folk festival that we had in Osnabrück, where I live, and I saw, the guitar was a part of the folk scene, and even the blues guitar was part of the folk scene. You could see guitar players in folk clubs playing in folk clubs, not in rock clubs. And the scenes of music were very separated at that time. There were jazz guitar or jazz music and blues music. No, not jazz music, rock music, and folk music. And blues was, especially the acoustic blues, was part of the folk scene. So I met a couple of people there at these festivals. Couple of blues players and folk players, and I learned what I needed for what I had in mind with my music. Of course, the first thing if you want to learn something is you copy people. So I learned the finger picking, the alternating bass, and the finger style. I learned from them, and I always thought, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. I can do it if I put in enough energy, because it's not impossible to do this.
Yeah.
And this was always my thinking. I mean, I was not frustrated by them because they played so good. It was for me more like a motivation to learn this, because I liked what they did.
They were German players?
No. It was international festivals. So we had. I was a big fan of a player called Rhys Jones. He was very often in my hometown, and I went to every of his concerts. And I learned a lot. He was a blues player, an English blues player. And of course, we had other people, ragtime players, like at that time, John James was popular here. And many guitarists came over, and I always watched them and tried to do the same technically. And then I discovered Stefan Grossman, and with his, I think it was the album was How to Play Blues Guitar, or I'm not sure, but one of those albums. And well, and then through his music, I discovered the blues guys like Reverend Gary Davis, Mississippi John Hurt, and this was I was more like America oriented.
Yeah.
I didn't listen too much to the British folk scene, like John Renbourn at that time. I discovered those people later. The British folk scene, like I'm a huge fan of Dave Evans, a great player and composer from England. He unfortunately he passed away this year. and also John Renbourn, of course, a couple of years ago. But I was in the beginning. I was more into the American styles and of blues playing, and I listened a lot to those blues players like Blind Blake, Mississippi John Hurt, and Reverend Gary Davis, and I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, and you developed a very unique style, which is made of so many things. Of course, I can hear some blues, but there is so much inside. Is there a moment, or was that a long transition from the, for example, the bottleneck slide blues thing to what is your style today? Did you listen to some other acoustic guitar players that were doing similar things that maybe made you think, oh, I can do this too, or I can go there too, or learning new tunings, or I don't know. Is there some moment that you recognize now from that time?
Well, it was, I think, the guitar music, the music I played in the beginning, like blues and ragtime and that stuff, it was a kind of a detour, because I had a conversation with my father, who was a classical musician. He was a conductor of an orchestra.
Oh.
And when I was 16 or 17, I said, "Oh, Dad, I want to make a living with my guitar music." And I played ragtime, and I was, and not even very good. And I played blues. And my father said, "Oh boy, you'll never make a living with that music." And I was shocked and found it so arrogant. Because he with his classical music, of course, he couldn't respect that kind of music, what I did at that time. And he was a strict classical musician, and every instrument that didn't play in an orchestra was not a serious instrument for him. So when I said I want to make a living with the guitar, well, I got the answer, and I was really shocked. And I thought by myself, "Oh, Dad, I will show you how I make it. I'll make it. I'll make it. I show you."
And you did.
And then I really practiced, and we had, of course, after these 2 albums, which was. I didn't play the albums for him, but it were 2 albums on an American label, and in the beginning of the 70s, for a German boy in a mid-sized town, it was incredible to have albums out on an American label. It kind of helped me in Germany to find concerts, because everybody thought, "Oh, if he has an album out in America, wow, he must be good."
Yeah,
so
sure.
it kind of was a good promotion for me. The sales were good, but I couldn't make a living with the sales of the albums, of course. And then when I was 19, I had already a baby. I was father, and of course I had to take care of the family. I have to earn money, but the discussion with my father still was on my mind, and I got more and more concerts, and I got so many concerts that I could afford to buy a car for a tour. And then I bought a car, of course, 1 class higher than my father's. Then I drove to my father and said, "Oh, Dad, I have a new car. I want to see that." And he only said, "Oh, yeah, a new car." He was not interested in my car. And I discovered I was so stupid. These thinking that I want to have more than my father, to show my father I can make a living. It was like, it was crazy. And I understood everything. But in that time, what I learned the business. I learned the business to make money with music. And it was a very, very good time to learn how I can make enough money for a family with just an acoustic guitar. And of course, everything fell away from me, and I had no bad thoughts about to my father. And I could listen to him if he suggested me to listen to this and that music. And it was a couple of years later when I did some competitions for composing. I won a first prize for orchestra composition, and I sent you can send in piano scores, and that's what I did. I sent in a piano score for an orchestra composition, and won the first prize, but then I had to orchestrate it. I have to write all the music for the whole orchestra. And of course, I asked my father. He was a conductor of an orchestra. And he had no time to really help me a lot, but he pointed me in the way of, he said to me, listen to this, Stravinsky. Listen to this, Richard Strauss. Listen to that, Debussy, and listen to, and I listened, and he of course had the scores for orchestra. I could read along with listening to the records, and I was blown away by this music. When I first heard Stravinsky and Bartok, it changed my life, I must say, and it was so fascinating that I decided to stop playing guitar. Well, I didn't stop, as you know. I still play, but I wanted to become a composer for orchestra. It was so fascinating. And well, when I first orchestrated my piece, it was the orchestration was kind of okay. The piece was good. The orchestration was
yeah.
First
time.
Yeah. Then I wrote a couple of other pieces, but I had a problem then to find an orchestra, and then I was frustrated. If you spend like hundreds of hours writing a piece for orchestra and then nobody plays it, it's frustrating. And I got back to the guitar, but I had all these new influences inside.
Yeah,
Stravinsky,
sure.
Bartok, Debussy, and also what I didn't mention, I played rock music before I picked up the acoustic guitar. I played in a rock band. We played roughly, I would say, in the Black Sabbath. Does it say something?
Yeah.
Black Sabbath, the group Black Sabbath. Yeah, and that style we played. So I was. I had a lot of influences at that time. I played Black Sabbath, like classical, violin, all these new orchestra compositions, then ragtime, blues, folk. And later then I was very influenced by jazz musicians like Chitarra and Gary Burton, the vibraphone player. And I was so influenced by Gary Burton that I looked for a vibraphone player to play with in the duo, and I found this guy, a German player, and we had a duo for a couple of years, and I learned a lot from him about jazz, and so this was a big influence too.
Great. Yeah. So this kind of answer to what I was asking in the beginning, because how do you become Petterfinger in a world without Petterfinger? Yeah. You become Petterfinger without listening to the guitar players. You make yourself one of a kind, listening to other things, which is great, by the way. I think the best influences are coming from out of our instrument, right? So we can sound unique.
Yeah, well, if you only listen to guitar music, or if you have special heroes like, let's say Gary Davis. If you only listen to Gary Davis and then at the end you play like Gary Davis.
Yeah, of course.
This is not what I wanted. I wanted to become well, a unique musician, I would say, and as long as I played in the standard tuning, I sounded pretty much like others. And then it was very common to tune the guitar, to use different tunings. I mean, you have it already in blues, like people like Robert Johnson or Blind Blake. They played in open tunings.
Yeah, of course.
And I started to play in open tunings. I had like at least 15 different tunings that I composed for. But the problem was, if you use so many tunings, that you can't keep the overview over the fingerboard.
Yeah.
In every tuning, so it was I was not improvising at that time. And when I played with the vibraphone player, well, it worked very well as long as we played my pieces, and I didn't improvise. But the vibraphone player, he played all his solos, and it happened at one concert that he finished the solo, and then he shouted over to me, "Hey, take a solo." And I was kind of forced to play a solo, and every second note was wrong. It was not a blue note, it was a wrong note.
Yeah.
And I decided,
all passing tones.
That will never happen again. And it's at the same time I was touring with Pierre Bensusan. He was just starting his Datka tuning, and we were talking about the tunings. And he gave me the idea: why don't you concentrate on one tuning? It was simple tip. I said, yeah, that's probably true. And then I picked one of the tunings that I was using. And
EBE is like get that.
Yeah, it's a little like I wanted to like the GAD, like in that tuning, because I liked it what Pierre did. But of course I didn't want the Datka tuning because he was already in there, and I wanted to find my own way. So EBE GAD is different. And I decided to stay in this tuning. And then I had to learn the guitar from the top again. Like I wanted to study jazz, but you can't learn from books. You can't.
Yeah.
Well, you have to find every chord, every scale, everything you have to find, and it was a lot of work and a lot of research and.
But it's a lot of work anyway, even in standard tuning. It's a huge work. So I think the advantage is that you find your own voice like that.
No, the advantage is that you have to think about it. If you are in standard tuning, you want to learn jazz, you can hire a teacher. But in my tuning, nobody can teach me.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So I have to think about every voicing, every chord, every scale. How can every fingering.
Sure.
And which is.
Did you write down things at the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning, yes. But the advantage is really that you have to think about what you do, and not. It's not like D major is this. No, you have to think. What do you need for D major?
Yeah.
And it's an intense. Intense work with a guitar.
Yeah, sure.
And then, of course, when I heard Chitarra for the first time. Wow, I wanted to see how he's doing everything what he does, and I tried to do the same on the guitar. Of course, I failed, but what came out was nice. I wrote a couple of pieces that sounded nice at the end. They didn't sound like Chitarra, but it was a start point. It was a starting point, and yeah, that's how it happens often. And even I have other people like let's say Pierre Bensusan. He was fascinating for me because he was not one of the ragtime and blues players at that time. Everybody played ragtime and blues, and I wanted to get away from that. And he was there. He played Celtic music. He played even a little jazz, and I tried to see how he's doing this, and I did. I figured out I wanted to try it out. Of course, it sounded different because I did different tuning. But I often do this. Even, let's say, Don Ross. Recently, I was touring with him, and he fascinated me with all his rhythm. I tried it out, and I stole something from him, but I made my own thing about it, out of it. Yeah.
Great. Absolutely. I find similarities in between you and Pierre, not just because of the fact that you decided to stick on one open tuning, but because I find this mind openness that bring you where the music brings you, with no boundaries. It seems like there's no boundaries, even if the composition are so different and the style is so different. But I find this this unique thing that probably ties you, and it's good to know that you started that way, kind of influencing, maybe just Tolkien or. And how did you, were you, because in the end you had your orchestra, right? You were looking for your orchestra, and then you had it, your 6-piece orchestra.
Yes.
And
well, one is missing with my orchestra. The conductor is missing.
The conductor is you.
My father. Yes.
Yeah. And did you? Were you in contact with the world of acoustic guitar while it was changing? I mean, what was your perspective at the time? Because many things happened since John Fay, Leo Kottke, John Rambo, and David Graham in the UK, and then I don't know, Alex DeGrassi and you and Pierre, and then Michael Hedges came. What was your perception of what was happening to the acoustic guitar? Did you have some?
What did you have?
Did you have some kind of perception that things were changing in such a big way? Because from the folk scene in the 60s, it just took 10 or 15 years, and Michael Hedges came. And in the middle, there is you and Pierre and all these great players, and it's a huge change. What was your thought at the time while the things were changing?
Well, it was always changing. I hear an echo. I hear your computer, my voice.
You hear your voice now?
Yeah, from your computer.
Oh, it's the same as before.
Strange. Okay. I'll try to live with it.
Is it better?
No, it's okay. It's okay. But to answer your question, I think there were always changes in the acoustic guitar. If you see in the 60s, there was more like blues, and then during this folk movement, there was Irish music coming up, and then For a while, what was very popular was arrangement of Beatles songs.
I can wear headphones so you won't hear your voice anymore.
Okay. Okay, now I think now it's good. Now it's good.
Okay.
There were always new starts coming up, or new movements coming up. Like everybody played Irish music for a while, you know, and Celtic music, and then there were Beatles arrangements what people did, and then in the 80s, nobody at the I would say at the end of the 80s, nobody was interested in acoustic guitar anymore, because computers were coming up and sequencers, and I remember people didn't come to the concerts anymore, so we had missing audience. But then it was this wave, Unplugged wave, by Eric Clapton as a main figure, and it didn't help us who played Unplugged our life long. So, but it was good in the industry, because all of a sudden the manufacturers turned over. I mean, acoustic guitars were built more. You saw them more in the stores and in the magazines. And of course, then I think New Age was a little before the Unplugged wave. It was very popular, yes, and well, I can't say. No, I would say it didn't. It had nothing to do with me. I mean, of course, you saw the big success of people like Alex de Grassi and others, and Michael Hedges, of course. But we had our style already. People like Pierre or me, we had our style, and it didn't change our style a lot. But there are always movements in the music, and it's always a mixture, because later on there was also jazz had an influence on the acoustic guitar, and now even classical music. It means we had a very strict folk scene, a very strict rock and jazz scene for many years. I know, because when I played with a vibraphone player, the people didn't like it. My audience didn't like it a lot, because it was too jazzy for them. This mixture of styles was not very popular in the beginning of the 80s. What was the question again?
No, the question was just your perception of what was happening to the acoustic guitar, because you just started with some folk players or some blues players, and then in 10 or 15 years, so many things changed completely. So it's probably, it was interesting. I don't know if maybe you just passed through that because it was the way. I mean, you were living your life as a musician, and you didn't notice too much of what was happening. But I was curious to know what was your perception, because you were making the history of modern acoustic guitar, not just listening to that. So it's kind of interesting to know what's the player perspective. If there is one. I mean, it doesn't have to be one.
Well, hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah, this is an answer, absolutely. And did you I think you always studied your instrument and music, right? I mean, I think you always trying to grow as a musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, there's always something to learn, and for years I practiced the single line playing. It's the main thing when I take a guitar. I play single lines, and because this is something I still have to learn, and all the harmonic things in jazz, improvisation, and something like this. I always play this when I pick the guitar. I don't play at home like I would play in a concert. I don't play complete pieces at home. I just pick up the guitar and play and improvise, and practice what I think I want to learn. There's still technical things I need to learn, but there are also harmonic things I want to learn. And I have so much music in my head, which I still can't get on the guitar. Sometimes a tuning could help, but I don't want to do the same mistake again and use too many different tunings. Or sometimes only the key you play in can help. I have the tuning that I play is E, B, E, G, A, D, so the same notes as in standard tuning, but not in the same order. It's E, B, E, two E's, B, A, D. So the same notes you have in standard tuning. So it's
right.
It's basically a tuning in, let's say, E minor 11 or something. Like the standard tuning. So if you sometimes I just try to play in A flat key of A flat. So. Gives new possibilities, new opportunities for new sounds.
Yeah.
And because if I always play in E minor, I mean, there's nothing I can learn. I know everything.
Sure.
And then from time to time, I play jazz standards to just learn voicings and things. And I play some classical. I'll play some Bach. It helps me learn things. Learn to
on your tuning.
Yeah, of course.
Great. So you have to arrange everything on the tuning.
Yeah, of course. For me, it's standard tuning. My tuning is my standard tuning.
Yeah, sure.
And now I even try to play Gary Davis pieces in my tuning, which is
beautiful.
incredibly difficult.
I imagine that.
Yeah, and sometimes because I have to do workshops sometimes in standard tuning. I can still play the stuff that I played when I was 18. Like I can play the whole blues repertoire, and some folk of course, and some ragtime I can play.
Great. Who were your favorites among the blues musicians?
Well, it's hard to say. I like a couple of them. Like I like Gary Davis. He's not a real blues musician, but he's acoustic gospel blues or whatever. And I like Mississippi John Hurt. I like Blind Blake, and
of course.
I really like to play that stuff. It's fun. It's just not my music, but it's fun to play. And I discovered, by the way, that it's not my music when I was, I think I was 18. And I was played a couple of concerts. Still played blues in the concert, and even sung at that time. And I found myself on stage singing, "I was born in Mississippi," and at the same time I was thinking, what are you trying to tell people? And I understood that you have to be honest with yourself, with the music. And I understood that this is not my, even if it's really fun to play, but this is not my music. I wanted to play my music, go back to my roots. And this is why I got back to the classical music and all the things that my father showed me. This is really where I come from.
Yeah, and that's so evident from what you play. I mean, you have a very unique style, so full of influences, and it's an incredible mix of things. So I think I could probably free you and let you to your real life, to your family. I want to thank you so much. This has been great. You are really one of my favorite players for so many reasons. Not just because I like you as a person, which is one of the most important things in life, but because what you play is so unique. It is what you were telling us. It's so evident from what you do, and it's so hard to achieve. It's so easier to copy others. Oh, it's what people can listen to. I mean, you listen to Butterfinger and you just listen to Butterfinger. It's not like, oh, he's copying this or he's copying that. It's just impossible. So this was great. So I met Doc Baker and he says hello. He told me to say hello.
Yeah. Great.
Another.
He's still playing.
He's still playing. Yeah.
I didn't hear from him for a long time.
Yeah. He lives in UK now.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, not too far from London.
Okay.
In Reading.
Okay.
So he's one of the guests of the show.
Oh, good.
So I think we are done. Thank you again very much for doing this. And I will stop the broadcast and we will say goodbye in private. This was the Acoustic Guitar Show with Butterfinger. Thank you for being here and contributing to this. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.